I'm sure you're talking to your neighbors, you're talking to your friends, you're talking to relatives, you're talking to people you work with, people at school, people at church, and you're hearing all kinds of different opinions on what is going on in the real estate market. And many people assume that there's just no options available to buy a house. They assume that consumers are giving up on home buying, and that is, in many ways, not the case. The latest sentiment survey from Fannie Mae shows declining optimism in the housing market, with more consumers now saying they plan to rent when they make their next move. And I am totally supportive of everybody doing exactly what they think is in their best interest. So this is in no way trying to convince you to buy a house if you really think you should rent. Consumers are expressing their frustration with the housing market as relatively low inventory and affordability concerns continue to drag down potential buyers and really are leading to more of those would-be buyers to stick with renting. Fannie Mae's home purchase sentiment dropped 1.1 points in July to 71.5, while down from June. Sentiment has improved since last summer, listen to this, when it was in the 66-point range. So if you think about it, buyer sentiment about buying is actually about, let's just round the number, 10% more. In July, only 17% of consumers said it was a good time to buy, down from 19% in June. Those, however, who thought it was a good time to sell also decreased slightly from 66% in June to 65% last month. Affordability may be improving in certain parts of the country as supply slowly comes online. Household incomes, with all the inflation and everything we're dealing with, have really been stretched, and sometimes it's hard for the buyers to qualify. But as inventory grows and hopefully interest rates continue to drop, they've dropped pretty good in the last few weeks, and hopefully that'll continue and through the month of September at least. One new trend that bears monitoring involves rent. A growing number of those surveyed said they plan to rent rather than buy when they make their next move. The problem is that the cost of renting has surged over the last few years. Now, if you see reports online, it says average rent in the United States is decreasing, but it's really the average rent in a multifamily, an apartment community, that's decreasing, and that's what's pulling the average down. I would say that in the single-family detached and single-family attached markets, that rents are continuing to increase. Prior to the market slowdown, which really started late 2022, home purchase sentiment had been strong for many, many years. The index was consistently above 80, but the home purchase sentiment is now 71.5, so not that far off. It was above 80 between 2014 and 2018 and above 90 through much of 2019 until the pandemic arrived in 2020. For more than a decade, from 2010 to 2021, the majority of consumers also said it was a good time to buy. My question is, will lower rates change attitudes? And I believe that lower rates will change attitudes. Even though somebody is saying, hey, I'd rather rent than own, it doesn't mean that they don't want to own. It means that they think it's better off for them financially to rent than to own. And in Atlanta, you could buy almost every home, especially around the average sales price, which, now is getting up closer to $500,000, but, $400,000, $380,000 a couple of years ago. And you could buy most homes, provided you had reasonable credit, for less than you could actually rent those homes for. There are tons of people who want to purchase a home. They want to live in their own home. And it's happening all the time. We're still going to have in Metro Atlanta 70,000 closings for the year. So there's a buyer for all 70,000 of those property, and it's not the big institutional investors that really sort of messed up the market in 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013, those years. And so I would say that in general, buyers are not giving up on the market. I do not believe.